Hey everybody! Today I want to talk about how to be more efficient at work. And before we get into today's topic, I really want to make a sort of separation between my thoughts and the sort of common idea in the productivity space, which is this concept of toxic productivity. So I really want to emphasize that what I'm for is being more efficient at work. So the amount of time that you're at work, I want to help you maximize the amount of output that you can get for the time that you put in. So I'm all for vacations and weekends and long sleep. I love all of that. But when I'm at work, I really want to get stuff done as efficiently as possible. And one concept that helps thinking about this is the production function, which is a very economics 101 type concept. So it's very core to economics. And essentially what the production function does, if you're not familiar with it, is it turns, or it describes rather, the way inputs turn into outputs. So inputs could be time, capital, things like that, and outputs could be tasks accomplished or products manufactured, for example. But in this case, since we're doing a very simple, you're at work and you need to get stuff done type of concept or type of video, the production function is fairly simple. So the production function has only one input, which is the amount of time that you put in, and the production function has only one output, which is the amount of tasks that you get done. And in the production function, there's a law of diminishing marginal productivity, which essentially means that in time, when you get to the sort of later stages of the production function, meaning that you've put 8 or 9 or 10 hours of work in, the amount of increased productivity for the unit of time that you put in is very marginal. So with this concept, it's important to remember that productivity decreases all the time. So the amount of output that you get diminishes over the workday. And with this video, my goal is to give you some ideas, some items that I've done myself to make the slope of the production function less dramatic at the tail. And I really want to make sure that you get as much output for the time that you put in. So let's dig right in. The first thing I want to discuss is investing into the proper technologies. So when you have only a certain amount of input that you can give, which is typically 8 to 12 hours per day, depending on your energy levels and the amount of work that you have to do, you want to get as much out of that time as possible. And if you have to do everything by hand, it's gonna make things really difficult. So that's why we have technology. And with technology, it's really important to find things and tools that work for you. And typically investing in technology might seem frivolous, it might seem unnecessary, but typically if you have, for example, a good computer with good processing power, that's gonna make a lot of job easier in today's world. Or, for example, this YouTube channel. The last time I tried to do YouTube videos, I was shooting with my phone, and then I was recording with an external mic, and then I was pulling all of those files into my computer, editing this whole thing out, which is really just a lot of work, and I couldn't really get the quality where I wanted it to be. So I invested in a good camera, and now I can record just straight out of the camera, grade the video footage on Premiere, and then just put video out. It's very easy, it makes it more efficient, and it just really makes it more likely that I'll stick with this habit that I really want to stick with. So investing in the right technology can make you more efficient at what you do, and it can also make you or enable you to start new hobbies or start new ventures, which is really exciting and I think something that we all should get into. The second thing I want to discuss is to separate work from everything else. So it's really important for us humans to have a physical separation between areas. For example, sleep hygiene is a really important thing to keep up. So in your bed you only do sleep and other bed-related stuff. So you don't go play games in bed, for example, which I myself am often guilty of, but I shouldn't do it. So the same applies to work. So you want to keep your work desk as a work desk. You want to keep your office as the office. If you have an office, you don't want to do too much work at home, because physically separating work from other life activities really helps you get in the work mood once you're at the office, and it really helps you sort of get into the flow state and really accomplish a lot during your day. So physically separating, if you don't have an office, you could just have a designated area in your home, designated desk, designated item that you can put on your desk once you start working, things like that, to create a physical feeling of separation. The third thing I want to discuss is delegation. So typically if you work with other people, and in today's world, even if you don't, you have many possibilities to outsource work to somebody else. So this is something that, again, I personally am trying to be as good with as I can right now, because I've got a lot on my table and I need other people to help me. So firstly, recognizing that you're not a superhuman and you can't always do all of the work that you're assigned, that's a really important thing to discover about yourself as well, because sometimes delegating work and using other people's expertise actually gets you to a much better result, and it gets you there much faster. So delegating is really good to do if you're in a team, and even if you're not on a team, so you're a solopreneur, for example, you can very well use platforms like Fiverr. There are many these sort of remote personal assistant type platforms that are really fairly affordable. So if your hourly salary is more than 10 euros an hour, for example, it's really good to look into options for delegating your tasks to get more out of your time. The fourth thing I want to discuss is a time management item, and this is related to using your calendar. And what I'd recommend that you start doing is something called time blocking. And time blocking is a process where you go into your calendar at the beginning of every week and you block out certain time slots where you'll do each task. So for example, for myself, I do a lot of strategy writing work. So I have to have blocked times where I can just focus on strategy, for example, for 2 to 3 hours at a time. So typically I like to schedule those in the morning, and then I'll do meetings in the afternoon, for example. So blocking your time off for important, long, difficult projects, that's a really good thing to do to get as much out of your time as possible when you really need to dig in and focus on some difficult task or long project. The fifth thing is batching. And batching your tasks essentially means to do similar tasks in one sequence. So for example, instead of going through emails 20 times a day or 15 times or 10 times a day, you want to batch your emails to one slot, and you could time block that slot off of your calendar where you'll go through all of your emails and then you don't look at email anymore. So this is one way, for example, where you can use this sort of batch processing to really get more out of your time so you won't get distracted later. This is something you can use with laundry. Of course, you don't wash shirts one at a time once they get dirty. You wait until many shirts are dirty and then you throw them in the washer. That's much more efficient. So the same sort of ideology applies here, where similar tasks can be done in batches to induce sort of efficiency that we really appreciate over here. So for example, if you have bills, pay those once, pay those in one time during one batch processing of bills, for example, once a month. That's going to be much more efficient than paying bills whenever they come in, of course making sure that you won't miss any payments and things like that, so you can be more efficient with repetitive tasks that have a lot of subcomponents to them. And the sixth and final item is to work on your focus. So I really do believe that focus is a muscle that you can work on. and you can train it just like any other muscle. And with focus, it's really important that you find some habits that get you into a flow state. So for example, for me, I like to read in the evenings or do something creative like shooting YouTube videos. And one thing that really helps me if I want to, for example, dig in to a very difficult book is that I go on YouTube and I look for study with me videos. Then I light a candle and then I listen to some calming music. So then I'll have a virtual study buddy with somebody studying with me in a video. I'll have some background music and a nice atmosphere in the house so that I can really dig in and focus on my books. So routines like that really train your focus muscle, and it really helps you a lot in the long term so that you can dig into difficult material, for example, or solve complex problems even at late in the afternoon if you're a morning person like myself. So these were some items that I recommend for you to get more efficient and more effective at work. If some of these resonated with you and you appreciate the content, I'd appreciate if you consider subscribing to the channel. I'll be doing a lot more content like this in the future as well. See you.